What's up, everyone? We are live here. Hold on, try that again. Let me push a 1 in the comments if you can hear me. This is the first time we're going live, so this is going to be kind of interesting here. Let's just crack right into it. What we're going to do is go south to north, and I'm going to look at all of the severe weather. We're going to start off in Texas, and then we're going to work our way on to all the way up into Nebraska. And then we're also going to look at some of the weather models as well. So let's just crack right into this thing now. First and foremost, let's see, hit the subscribe button, of course. And if you know any chasers tune in here that want to do live streams in the future with these live shows, let me know in the comments or email me or something. We can put your live video up here as we break storms down. So yeah, just let me know, and we'll get right into this thing. First off, we're going to start off in Texas here. We got some pretty nasty cells down in Lubbock. We're going to look at that, and then we're going to go up to Oklahoma where there's a tornado in a second. But let's first look at these storms. These are supercellular. I mean, you can see these flying eagle shapes. When you get these flying eagle shape, there's lots of shear way up high. There's probably an overshooting top, which is causing that V pattern in the storm. It's blocking some of the precip. So really intense updrafts out in Lubbock, just north of Lubbock. This blue area, I believe, is hail. We can actually check that out real quick. This is a radar scope. If anyone wants to, follow along, we're going to turn on that sidebar, and I think you can change the hail up here somewhere. We'll do hail size, and so these little contours. This is where all the hail has been falling. So Lubbock, East Lubbock. East Lubbock got some pretty nasty hail earlier, and you can see the spotter reporting wall clouds, hail probably an inch or two in diameter. But these are some pretty nasty storms. So I'm going to put a loop on here. These are moving northeast, but not tornadic right now. I think there's probably a little bit too much cold air back there coming down. Maybe the cap's kind of screwing with things. But these are really nice looking supercells. And I think at any time these things could go tornado warned. So let's turn on the base reflectivity, or the base velocity. Try that again. I'll do that right there. And we can see if there's any rotation. Maybe one out near Levelland or something like that. Just west of there going towards Smyre. But these should be north of Lubbock. But let's go up to Oklahoma. I think this is where the big show is going to be right now. Do the DDC radar, which is Dodge City. And there are some serious storms up here. There's got to be a tornado right there. Let me check the cities here. What is that? Laverny, Oklahoma. Probably got a pretty big tornado going right actually that's going right through the city. So that's interesting. We can pull up the 3D radar here in a second. Go back to that reflectivity. Yeah, there's definitely a circulation down in there. There's inflow coming in. You can see that notch, a little bit of a hook right there, just north of there. There's probably a big tornado going right through Lavney right now. And we'll go farther south. These are pretty linear. But anytime you can get this thing to break apart, these storms to break apart, you could have a tornado threat. Now there's a new little cell right here getting sucked into it. So this thing might actually cycle soon. You might see that tornado wrap up into the north side of the storm. And then maybe a new circulation develop down here, which could put Buffalo under the gun. So that's interesting. Now let's go back to that velocity. See what these are these spotters are saying here. Yeah, tornado, local storm report, tornado. Emergency managers. We got some spotters that actually said something too. Yeah, so they said it's actually forming. There actually is a tornado, and you can see it right there. You can see that gate-to-gate shear. It actually just got really strong on this latest frame right there near Laverny. Get rid of that watch box thing. Okay, there it is right there, the tornado. You can see it. Pretty strong. It's moving northeast probably at 30-40 miles an hour, and that's actually looking like it might be taking a direct hit. Now let's I'll go over to Google Maps here, and we can go to the iPad, and here it is right here. You can see that. Look at that storm just circulating around That's a Loveland. We'll go north. Turn on the Dodge City radar. And this is pretty intense. You can see all these tornado warnings. This just kind of blew up out of nowhere. It was severe warned for a while. This we wait for this thing to load. Turn on the 3D radar here. This is kind of cool. We can do 3D radar. And we'll see what's going on over at Laverne, Oklahoma. Yeah, that's a pretty intense storm there. I mean, look at the size of that thing. There is probably some giant hail inside of that thing. The cloud tops are way up there, probably 50, 60K feet. And yeah, those are the tallest storms in the country right now. So this is looking pretty intense. There's probably a tornado. See that pink area right there? Just out ahead of that is probably where you get your tornado. And you got some RFD in there as well. So this is looking pretty intense. Go back to the velocity here. And yep, there it is. You can see it right there, just southwest of Laverne. And that's going to move northeast. Let's see what's going on here. It says, yeah, near, it's moving northeast at 30 miles an hour. And again, it's on the ground. So the hail size with this thing is probably going to be an inch or two at least. I would guess a couple inches. We go back to radar scope and check the size of that thing. Yeah, hail size about 1.25 inches, moving northeast at 22 miles an hour. So pretty intense. And that is moving to the northeast. And you can see it's kind of probably starting to cycle out now, losing a little bit of organization. But I think you're going to see some development to the southwest. And that'll put Buffalo under the gun in a second, in a few minutes at least. And then we'll move north real quick and look at some of the other storms up in Kansas. And this is a widespread complex. Now, the tornado threat up north here is a lot lower. There's a warm front here, and anything north of that warm front, it's going to be a lot lower. So if you look up here, it's mostly a complex, very messy. Severe weather heading towards Russell, Salina, Concordia, Manhattan, Topeka later on. And then we got some severe weather up here in Nebraska as well. And there's actually some giant hail falling down here in Beatrice area, right here with this cell right here. And we'll turn that on. I think this had 4-inch hail earlier. So click that real quick. Yeah, there's probably about 2 to 3-inch hail there. That's dying out a little bit, but then there's more storms in southeast Nebraska moving towards Falls City, Auburn, Nebraska City. Omaha going to get some too, but there is lightning and thunder all over the place up there. So we actually got a tornado warning out in New York as well, so let's go check that out. There's actually a tornado threat out here today as well, and a little tiny cell. Nothing too serious here, but probably a little bit of a circulation in there. Turn on the reflectivity. This is moving towards Andover. Yeah, that's going to be towards Andover. Circulation looks really weak. Probably was warned at one point earlier. Doesn't look terrible. There it is, right there. It actually was stronger earlier on. Yeah, that's going to be north of East Stroudsburg. There was probably a tornado that actually moved through there. That was a pretty tight circulation, and then it died out. So Andover might have lucked out. So we'll see what happens. That structure of that storm didn't look all that great, so I doubt that that'll hold together much longer. So some storms up there, some storms out in the northeast, out towards Albany. Let's switch back to this. Actually, we'll go to the browser here, and we'll look at the forecast here for the rest of the night. This is the warm front you can see up here in Nebraska or Kansas here. Warm front's gonna be kind of right here. This all these contours, the instability. So that means the air up above in the atmosphere is a lot colder. So the warm air at the surface is going to rise because it's colder above to separate out the densities. And plenty of instability up here along that warm front. See these winds? These winds are out of the southeast here. Now they're out of the east. So there's a wind shift line there. and that's where the instability drops off. That's kind of where your warm front is. There's going to be a cold front back here, and the storms are kind of aiding that. Your dry line is down here. Southwest winds, dry air, southeast winds, moist air out from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what's creating your storms all along these fronts here. Now, there's going to be some storms north of the warm front, but all of those storms north of the warm front, give or take about 30 miles, so probably something like that. And north, the tornado threat is near zero. Very unlikely to get a tornado on the ground because the storms are going to be elevated. Now, how does that happen? Well, if we go over here, I'm going to show you real quick. You got your warm front, and that's the warm front. This is the surface right here. This is way up high. Okay, and here's the leading edge of the warm front is going to be out here. So the farther north you go, the higher up that wedge of air is. All the warm air is at the surface, colder air above, and that's just kind of how the fronts work. They're kind of wedged like that. So the higher up, the storms are going to form too because of the density differences, and that's where you're going to get your storms. So a little bit farther up, they're not as surface-based. So let's go back to the iPad here and check out that storm near Laverne, and it is looking a little bit, still pretty impressive here. See that in 3D. Play a loop here. And it's still looking pretty impressive there. And now Buffalo's under the gun, so I'd watch out for that. Yeah, looks like it might be rain wrapped now. So that's dangerous. I would say if you're driving in that area, especially near Highway 64 or just south of there, that is pretty dangerous looking. Probably some rain curtains getting sucked into it right now. And so that's pretty scary looking. So back to the browser, we're going to look at the HRR model and see what the rest of the night looks like with the model here. So this is right now. You got this complex of storms. Here's your tornado warned storms. These storms are mostly hail and wind up in this area, kind of north of that warm front. And this is the rest of the night here. So this is going to be 4Z, which is around 11 p.m. Still some isolated supercells. So I'd say even out through past about midnight up here, there's going to be a heightened tornado threat. The cap will start to build in. And what is the cap? Well, the cap is this, let's see if we have a better visual of this. It's that warm lid in the mid layers of the atmosphere. And these blue areas are capped. You can see it's uncapped right now in this white area. Once that starts to fill in, give or take an hour or two, when the storms will usually start to weaken. Unless they're really powerful and they can maintain their own environment, they'll start to weaken. So once you see this blue start filling in, it'll start to weaken here soon. And so that might happen within the next hour or two, and we'll look at that in a second. And so this is Thursday night, or tonight, or tomorrow morning, actually, around like early in the morning, 3, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So you see some complexes go through Nebraska, Iowa. It's going to be some really heavy rain for a long period of time up here. The storms really start to weaken out here. Doesn't really move eastward with a wind threat as much. So it's mostly going to be north of that warm front where you get the storms, and then that's tomorrow. So let's look at those convective products, the cape that I was talking about. And this actually shows it's capped right now. So yeah, the cap really should start to strengthen. We can actually look at this on the ESPC. This is 2 hours from now, 3, 4. It starts to kind of diminish, but there could be some isolated tornadoes out here, I would say, through about midnight. So we'll have to watch that. And then let's see how many got the chat going here. Someone said, what software am I using? Well, there's a lot of different software. The one on this iPad is called Weather Lab Pro. I'll go back to that. This is a Weather Lab Pro. It's for mobile. It's a pretty cool program. You can actually look at 3D radar. So we can go to the 3D radar and check that out real quick. And then the other program, the radar program I was using, is Radar Scope. And that's only about like $10 a year. So here it is right here. Now Buffalo is actually under the gun. Now this storm is getting really close to Buffalo. or just north of that. And then another tornadic supercell just south of Laverne again. So we could have a couple of rounds here. See if there's any circulation in there. Yeah, a little bit. It's weaker, but definitely a little bit. We'll go back to radar scope because we can check out more in detail where these tornadoes are with some other products here. We can do a split panel, a quad panel here, and go to the radar in Oklahoma, the DDC radar. And these yellow tracks are the hail. I mean, look how much hail's fallen across the country today. And this is just in western Kansas and Oklahoma, so plenty of hail out there. And if you look at the size, this is 2.5 inch, 3 inch, and these orange-red areas. The yellow areas are about an inch or so, inch and a half. Some pretty serious hail there. Is this not on there? Okay, let me try that again. There we go. So the yellow areas right there are, we got some 1 inch hail, and then the red areas, 3 inches, 2 inches. And if you zoom out, we can see the rest of the country. There's just hail all over the place, all over western Kansas, Oklahoma. So, I mean, if you're a hail, like a roofer, there's probably plenty of projects to work on here. So let's zoom into that tornadic circulation out in northwest Oklahoma here. So this is Buffalo right here, and we can actually see, two tornadic circulations now. So you see this Laverne one up here going up towards Buffalo. It's still maintaining its ground. Then there's a tornado northwest of Follett right here, and that's really strengthened in the last few seconds, or few minutes. And let's zoom into that. See that frame right there? And here it is right here. It's kind of broad, weak there. The past couple frames a little bit stronger. Let's see what this report says. There's a storm report and it tornado by a storm chaser. So storm chaser saying he saw a tornado. These are after dark, folks, so this is getting kind of sketchy. Brief touchdown. That's kind of what it looks like. Probably a weaker tornado. But nonetheless, hey, that's looking like it's moving near Laverne again, or maybe just south of there. So hopefully it goes just south, but the track looks to be pretty close to Laverne again. And we can actually turn on some cones here. Now I'm going to go to a product called Radar Omega. So this is another product we use, and you can see all the storm chasers where they're all at. And there is a bunch of chaser convergence here. Not as bad as earlier, but tons of people on that Follett storm right there in northwest Oklahoma. And we'll turn on the track, see where this thing's going. See if that works. 1 inch hail with that thing. Whoops. So yeah, there's probably going to be a little bit larger than that. Yeah, tracks aren't working for some reason, but plenty of chasers on that. See, there we go. See, there's the track, and it looks like it's going to pass just north of Laverne. But I would actually, looking at the radar, it looks like it might be a little bit farther south than what that track shows. So I would say it's probably a track very close to Laverne again. So, when we get these setups, we get along the dry line, we get these string of pearls. And when you can get these supercells, these quasi-linear things, you can have round after round after round. All you have to wait on is for that dry air to either punch east or that cold air to come in and kind of just kick this stuff out to undercut the storms. So that is looking pretty scary there for that situation there. So go back to that, and let's check out the storms in southeast Texas again. Go back to the single panel. And we'll go down to the Amarillo radar. See if there's any hail down here. See how these things are doing. Yeah, plenty of hail down there. Look at that. Probably 2 inches or so. 2.75. These things are mostly hail producers. It's probably a little bit more capped down here. Petersburg, Floyd, Dada, shallow water getting smacked. Yeah, shallow water is about to get hit really hard with this stuff. This stuff coming right towards it. There's a notch in there. Let's see if there's any tornadic circulation. You can see that hook right there. So let's see if there's a tornado potential here. Not really. Kind of weak. It actually might be. Oh, there it is right there. Kind of weakened out. But if we go farther up, there might be a little bit. Yeah, a little bit more farther up, but pretty much weak down there. We'll go back to north Kansas and southern Nebraska here. There's actually some hail up here as well. Look at the lightning. Geez, pretty crazy. And really nothing terrible up here for tornadic circulations. You know, the warm front, it's too far north of the warm front. So yeah, pretty intense hail in there. This is looking like maybe just an inch or two, but there was a 4-inch report down there, so pretty crazy. So let's go back to that storm down near Laverne. Check out the chat real quick. Someone says a pivotal weather tutorial. Yeah, we'll have to do that sometime. I actually have one on the channel. You can go see all this stuff I'm using, especially the weather models. I do have some tutorials on the channel. And then yeah, we'll do Hurricane Xander. This is mostly a test live stream tonight, so you know I'm eventually going to get a green screen in here for fun and better lighting and stuff like that. So we're just kind of testing this out tonight. So where's everyone at? Put your location in the comments. Curious to see where everyone is from tonight. So we'll go back to that storm. Let's see if the northeast... Yeah, the tornado warning in the northeast is expired now. I thought that would happen. We'll go back to that storm up in Laverne, Oklahoma. And that tornado warning actually expired down to the south. So that's good news. Then we'll turn on the super res velocity. So there it is right there. That's the circulation. Looking pretty strong again. Let's see what the wind speeds are on that. 50 knots or so. Yeah, it's 39, 40, 50 knots. Might be a little bit stronger, but definitely this wind, this green area, blue area is your inflow. It's going into the storm. This is outflow going out of the storm. And when you get that, when you get some, you know, a lot of wind coming out, a lot of wind going in, you're going to get your circulation. And that is starting to happen here. That's northwest of Laverne, and that's probably going to move north of Buffalo. So pretty good news for Buffalo there. And then another one to watch is down here. They actually dropped the tornado warning down there, but they got 1.5-inch hail, so pretty strong hail, moving northeast at like 45 miles an hour. But this area is definitely want to watch that, because if that gets its act together, it'll be another tornadic circulation towards Laverne again. The hail hasn't been terrible on these two, but oh, that looks like it got a lot stronger near Buffalo. I think Buffalo, you're going to still get some winds, some inflow winds. So you're going to get some winds out of the south. Usually when you get your storms, it's going to come out of the storm from the northwest, but there definitely is an inflow component here. And so when the storm tracks near Buffalo, a little bit north of there, you're probably going to see some pretty strong winds out of the south. And this is 63, maybe close to 70, 75 in there, and then 40 going out. So looks like this area is starting to strengthen. Sometimes when you get a strong pulse of inflow like that, like we just saw, this will it'll have a response. You're going to have a really strong impulse into the storm that's going to really strengthen the updraft, and then you can get some pretty strong outflow. So sometimes that can actually mean that there's tornado genesis about to occur. Another little area of circulation down here. So that's just south of that main one. Here we are again. That's looking pretty broad, but definitely something going on right there. Inflow is continuing to strengthen just west of Buffalo. 75, more widespread. I think there's an 80 in there maybe. Yeah, much more widespread 75 mile an hour wind going into the storm here. So a little bit broad right now, but what you might see happen here is it tightened together right around here, and that could enhance the tornado potential. Wind to the north. Let's see what these storms up to the north. It's probably not as accurate, but yeah, it's a little on the high side, but plenty of wind with the storms up into Kansas. Kind of on the backside of this MCS, sometimes you can get some wind. Doubt it's going to be that strong, but maybe 30, 40 miles an hour. Sometimes on the backside of MCSs, you can get that. And then how about the northeast Kansas, southeast Nebraska area? See how the winds are doing up there. Velocity. Nothing terrible. A little bit of wind associated with that storm in southeast Nebraska near Pawnee City. Got about 50, 60 miles an hour. So that's borderline severe weather, severe storm warning. And then we're going to turn on the something called the VIL. This is going to kind of show you the hail potential. Vertically integrated liquid. And you can see these areas where you get this colored, and especially the reds, yellows, and whites, that's where your strongest hail is going to be. So probably some strong hail out in southeast Nebraska that's moving towards nothing, really not hitting any cities, maybe Burchard, north of Liberty, moving towards Auburn, Nebraska City. So this area to the north could see some hail later. Some hail going towards Omaha, but nothing too bad. I don't think that's going to be anything more than pea size. But these storms can obviously change. How about the hail size down here in Oklahoma? DDC, check the radar out there. Some pretty massive hail here, looks like, near Laverne again, or Follett. This was about 10 minutes ago. Sometimes these products will, these hail products will load a little slower, but 1.5-inch hail down on that storm. The one near Buffalo, 0.75 inches. The one near Lipscomb, 1.5 inches. Look at all these tornado reports down here. There's probably a tornado somewhere near Lipscomb earlier. So lots of reports of hail down there. Here's some more down here. Let's see. What the heck is that? That's the radar artifact. But yeah, look at this hail just south of or just west of Canadian, Texas. Have some 2.5-inch hail reports, 3 inches. So close to baseball-size hail near the Texas Panhandle. Amarillo looked like it lucked out. See if that is true. Change the radar here. Actually, Amarillo, yeah, just north of Amarillo and southwest of there. Go to down here and see how the hail is down here. See, these storms down here are pretty strong with the hail. This has probably got some pretty good size hail. And wait for that to load. I think we have to turn on the cities for that. Yeah, 2.5-inch hail with that storm near Petersburg and going towards Florida. The storm out near Morton, 1.75-inch hail. But you can see this storm near Petersburg that just went north of Lubbock dropped some serious hail. Look at that track. And look at that 3-inch hail in on there. So, New Deal. Probably some serious hail damage in New Deal today. So there's probably going to be some roof work down there. And then Lubbock, Texas. The east side of Lubbock, Texas got smacked with hail as well, according to this swath, 2.5 inches. And that's all moving northeast. So it'll be interesting to see if it can make it out to Childress and Memphis, Turkey, Esteline. Probably not. It's probably going to weaken by the time it gets out there. Now we got a new tornado warning out here in northwest Oklahoma. And here's our hail swath. We'll go back to the super res here. You can see that hook there near Buffalo. This is getting really close to Buffalo, just to the west. Another tornado for Laverne again. So yet again, another tornado warning just a few minutes later after that other one. See the wind speeds here. Yeah, definitely looking interesting. Interesting to note that one near Laverne looks a little bit weaker. I don't know if that's an old warning box. We can check. That circulation is definitely weaker near Laverne, so that's good news. Check this real quick. Yeah, tornado warning expires in 8 minutes, so that's an old one. This is the new one, and this expires in a little bit here. And we got 0.75-inch hail moving northeast at 25 knots. That circulation looks pretty nasty right there. Like I said, you would see that thing start to really wrap up, and it has started to do that. But that's where your tornado probably would be. And we got 70, 80 miles an hour going into the storm and coming out 50 or so. So really intense inflow if you're near that storm. Probably some decent southeast winds getting sucked into this thing near Buffalo. But it looks like it'll pass just to the north. Let's change back to the iPad and check out that 3D radar. It's actually storming up here in Nebraska, thundering right now. All right, so we'll go to the 3D radar and zoom back into Laverne. This is the main show right now, and you can see, turn the animation off, you can really see that there's that new warning. Wait for this to load. Check chat while that loads. What do we got going here? Hey, Xander, Sue, John, Chase, Jeezerman, John. Lots of people in here. How's everyone doing? Where's everyone from? Type your name. Okay, we got some people from Michigan, Columbus, Ohio, Louisiana, Wisconsin. Anyone from Oklahoma watching this? Go back. I think this is loaded. So here we are near Buffalo. There's actually storming out right now. I don't know if you can hear it. But look at this thing coming up north towards Laverne. This very high top. I mean, this is really high up in the atmosphere. You can see the stuff north isn't deep enough into the atmosphere. Storms north of that warm front aren't going to really get as high. The tops are much lower. But these surface-based storms that are sucking instability up from the surface, this is really making these storms go way up in the atmosphere. You get really high heights with these storms. And there's your kind of your notch near Buffalo and Laverne. You can kind of see the notch on there a little bit. But the main hail and precip are going to be in these red and pink areas. There's probably a serious hail shaft coming down just southwest of Laverne right now. And then these storms to the north. See if there's any in southeast Nebraska. A little bit. We can change radars for that. Let's see. Yeah, we go to the Omaha radar. These don't look as bad up here, but definitely some hail. Look at that. Just tons of precip. The ones in southeast Nebraska are going to be the heaviest. You see near Blue Rapids, just north of Blue Rapids. But these storms near Texas are going to be the best ones. How about the ones near Lubbock? These are probably pretty tall too. See if they're, yeah, they're really tall. Look at that. So some serious hail. I mean, when you get these really tall ones, the hail threat really can skyrocket because the hail goes up into the storm and then kind of spins around. You can really get really intense updrafts, so that pushes the hail back up into the updraft. And so you have some serious storms out near Lubbock with hail. And so pretty crazy. So let's see where the chasers are at here. Most of those chasers are on the storms in northeast Oklahoma. There's some people down here in these storms down in Texas. Just haven't really quite organized. We're getting cloudy ground lightning here in eastern Nebraska right now. Might have to end this soon. Go check it out. I'm going to go over the forecast again real quick. Check out this browser. Yeah, there is cloud to ground lightning like crazy. Might actually lose the power. I mean, this just almost every few seconds here. So here's the warm front. If we haven't, here's the warm front right here. This is your instability. These blue areas, I don't know if you can see it. That's the capped area. Whoops, try that again. There we go. The blue areas are capped, so the severe threat's really starting to lower as that cap builds in. But there's a little bit of uncapped air out here in southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma. So those surface-based storms that are out here that are tornado warm could last a few, maybe an hour or two longer as they track into Oklahoma. The stuff will start to kind of line out, I think, with this MCS to the north. And I think that's going to lower the tornado threat a little bit. But there could be some brief tornadoes out here within the line throughout the night out in northern Oklahoma and into the Panhandle of Texas. The storms down here are kind of struggling to produce tornadoes at the moment, but definitely some hail down there. The storms to the north of this warm front, the warm front's going to be kind of right there, those southeast winds, and then you see the winds shift to the east. Winds north of there, the storms north of there are just going to be hail. It's going to be elevated storms. Here's your warm front. Pretend that's the start of the warm front here, the start of the warm front there. As you go north, if you go north here, this is a 3D view. You got your storms farther up in the atmosphere. It means they're elevated up there. And so tornadoes are less likely to form, and usually you just get hail. Now, I've read somewhere in research papers it's typically about 30 miles from the warm front. So if you go about 30 miles north, your warm front's kind of right here. Anything like up here, it's the tornado threat's going to be very, very low. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just going to be very low. So we'll look at the significant tornado parameter. This is measuring where the highest tornado potential is. And then we can actually see, I think the SPC is having some problems with that. There we go. I don't know why the radar's not showing up. The highest tornado threat right now is in northeast Oklahoma, exactly where those storms are. There's a little bit out here in Texas, probably going to weaken a little bit. But you look at this warm front, you can see the warm front, exactly what I was talking about. Anything north of that warm front, the threat dramatically lowers. But you can see this blue area, that's going to be your capping. So there's mid-level warm air. And when you get mid-level warm air, that prevents... It's warmer than it is at the surface, so that air is going to rise. It's going to hit that warm layer and then sink again because the air is cooler than it is above. So that will prevent, it'll kind of disrupt the storms or prevent them from forming. So it's still uncapped in that area, so you'll still see an isolated tornado potential for the next couple hours down in that area. The wind shear is off the charts here. All you really need is 40, 50 knots. We got 60 knots, 70 knots, and in this area, so we got some really good wind shear. I mean, and this storm system just continues. We're going to have day after day after day of storms. Supercell composite, pretty high, 28. Let's look at the significant hail parameter. Pretty high out here, about 2. Well, I said that's more moderate. It's a 2 out here, kind of a 1 out here. There's a severe watch all the way up to Nebraska, and probably anything north of that, you're getting a little bit too far north of the warm front. Here's your dry line, and you can see anything west of that dry line is just too dry for storms, so the hail threat lowers pretty significantly. It's a little elevated down there as well. See what happens over the next couple hours. Starts to weaken over the next couple hours. And then this is what the SPC is forecasting for the tornado threat over the next couple hours. You can see 8 around, let's see, what is this? It's around midnight or so. It's heightened in south central Kansas. Then we're going into early in the morning. Now, you can see it extends out into southeast Nebraska, but it's going to be capped, and I think there's going to be a lot of cold air coming in with that warm front. But there could be some isolated tornadoes after dark in Kansas and Oklahoma, just not really that strong, probably pretty brief in nature. But the highest tornado threat, obviously, we're out here right now. And forecasted to be an 8 or so, diminish a little bit in an hour or so. Look at the simulated reflectivities. Try that again. Look at lightning for fun here. This is going over midnight. You can see the heaviest lightning is south of I-80 in Nebraska, right here, through about midnight. And plenty of lightning out there in southern Kansas, southwest Kansas, northwest Oklahoma. Really intense lightning with those supercells out there right now. Look at the simulated reflectivity. This is right now, and then we're going to fast forward this into midnight. Just storms after storms will blow up along that dry line. So it's actually forecasting another line of storms along that dry line. That's going to track into Kansas overnight, but probably weaken, probably going to be kind of capped, and it's going to really weaken. So Wichita probably not going to be hit by much, maybe some isolated storms kind of dying out. So maybe some outflow, maybe some gusts of winds that blow in there a little later. Nebraska, tons of thunderstorms, maybe some isolated flooding out there. And then this is going to be tomorrow, another round of storms out just to the east of the area of today's setup. So pretty intense. We'll go find that radar real quick, or try that out again. Find out that where that dry line's at. We can zoom in. This is a Vinci Sky, pretty sweet model program. Yeah, you can see these wind fields. This is the wind. I think they have moisture here. We'll just use humidity dew point. And where your dew point is at, where it's a gradient here, you get this gradient. This is where the dry line's at. So you have really dry air out here. Southwest winds blowing in, southeast winds blowing out of the Gulf, sweeping up moisture. And this is kind of where your dry line's at, and that's where your focus is. You see this area up here, this is probably the cold front. So actually, you see air coming down here, and you got some storms, very cold air this year. So lots of cold air coming down. Your cold front, your warm front's going to be out here, where you get those southwest winds, and then your dry line down here. So these storms are going to be really out ahead of that line, out ahead of those fronts, and even north of that warm front. So that's where your heaviest storms are going to be throughout the night. Let's go back real quick. We'll check out that tornado warned storm and see what's going on with that near Buffalo. Looks like it's starting to weaken. New tornado warning out for Laverne. This time the circulation's actually to the southeast. So it kind of recycled, and it's out in the southeast. Pretty broad right now, probably just a mesocyclone. And what's a mesocyclone? I'll show you real quick what that is. Oops, forgot to change that. There it is right there, southeast of Laverne. The other circulation is up here north of Buffalo. They both look a little bit weaker and a little bit broader, probably just mesocyclones. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you get tornadoes. And so this is a tornado, obviously. And then you got your circulation here. So what a mesocyclone is, it's the same thing that you're usually going to get tornadoes with these, but not all the time. Okay, you get these spinning saucer type of things, and they're not always this nice looking. I mean, this is like a sculpted kind of thing, but you get your circulation, you get your outflow out here, your RFD comes out underneath this side, and then you get inflow that gets kind of wrapped in around the storm, and you can get these flying saucers. Now, if these things can spin enough and you can get the right low-level dynamics, you can get kind of a tornado in these things. But what we're seeing right now on the radar is we're just kind of seeing this. Now, it probably doesn't look that good, but we're probably just seeing the mesocyclone. We're not seeing the tornado threat. So if what you're seeing on radar is you're seeing that inflow, you're seeing that outflow, that broad circulation. But when it gets tighter, that it's picking up the tornado stuff. Okay, so but right now it's too broad, so it's all it's really picking up is this. And we'll go back to that and check that out again, see if it changed. Here it is near Laverne, and go back to that real quick. Yeah, see how it's really broad. It's not as tight. You know, usually when you get these tornadoes, it's a lot tighter. It's kind of not as organized. There's actually another circulation out here. Radar frame just updated, just north of Buffalo. Pretty strong out here. The outflow's not as strong. So this could cycle again. Could be another interesting storm as it moves north near, let's see, it's going to be near Protection, Kansas, Coldwater, Kansas. That area could be under the gun later. This area actually just got a tornado warning. 0.5 inch hail moving northeast at 50 miles an hour. Probably a little bit slower than that. Sometimes the radar overestimates. Now that storm, this is that storm near Laverne. This was earlier. See how that it's a lot tighter. The circulation's a lot tighter. And you can actually see right when it gets right around here, it's really tight. And so there probably was a tornado just northwest of Buffalo. And then earlier there was one near Laverne. Now this circulation down here for this tornado warning looks pretty broad as well. It's kind of messy. There's pretty good inflow notch kind of getting sucked into that west of May. Now we got some spotter reports. They say there's a tornado down here. Cone tornado 4 miles west. Now when was that? Let's see. That was at 8:56. So that was that storm a little bit earlier. That's probably not the circulation right now. Yeah, these are from earlier today, 8:52. Yeah, there's definitely a tornado near Laverne earlier, and that's probably what we're seeing right there. And you can see it's kind of dying out, but that mesocyclone's still intact. This supercell is still going. Oh, that was interesting. Didn't catch that. There was something that blew up right here, right there. Might have been a tornado just northwest of Buffalo as well. Check that out again. Go to the dual panel here, the quad panel or whatever it's called, and check some things out here. We can actually see 4 different radars on at the same time. Go to super res. This is radar scope, so if anyone wants to check that out, they can. It's actually freezing up. There we go. Look at that. Look at that hook. See that hook? That is indicative of really good inflow. You can see those storms that kind of blow up right here northeast of Laverne or Buffalo. Just too used to saying that. It's kind of cycling, so you get new storms that develop out ahead of the main hook, out ahead of the main cyclone, and then they'll get sucked in. The inflow will kind of blow them in. So that just happened just about now, and so you're probably getting the storm to cycle now, and it might actually start to strengthen again. Right now, the mesocyclone's pretty weak. If you look in there, or the tornadic circulation, it's pretty weak. It's probably more of a mesocyclone, but there is strong inflow. There was a nice surge of inflow in there as the storm cycled. So it actually, I would not be surprised to see it actually strengthen again, maybe a little bit within the next 5 to 15 minutes. You might start to see this area out here bloom a little bit with its outflow. And you can kind of see hail behind it as well. This is going to be the RFD, kind of right in this area. So you're going to get some pretty serious hail along that highway there. Let's see if there's any chasers chasing in that thing. It's starting to get dark out now, so getting pretty dangerous out there. This is that storm near Laverne and Buffalo. This is Laverne, Buffalo. Here's your hail core right up there. There's no chasers up there right now, but there is a chaser right here. Lane Pierman, probably getting some interesting conditions out there. There's a couple chasers down here near Laverne. These storms are a little bit farther south, and that could actually increase the tornado potential, because the storms farther south can ingest all that southeast winds, and sometimes these storms up to the north will get kind of cut off from all the moisture supply. But what'll happen is the wind shear. The jet stream is blowing the precip out this way. You get your southeast winds. So sometimes these updrafts up here will start to struggle a little bit because the wind is blowing, the wind up, above from these storms out here is blowing precip into the updrafts. And so sometimes they kind of struggle. But that one's maintaining itself pretty good. Would not be surprised to see that storm near Buffalo start to weaken soon. Check out the 3D radar again. I think we'll go for another 5 to 10 minutes or so. And we'll turn on the Dodge City radar. Check out the chat real quick here. And yeah, pretty strong stuff there. You can see that's the 3D radar. It's called Radar Lab Pro. So you can actually get that in the App Store. Anyone can. So anyone get any storm pictures? What we're going to start doing here soon is we're looking for storm pictures and storm live stream. So if you know a chaser, or if you have a webcam up into your house or whatever, and you want to stream, we will start streaming stuff with these radar things. So right now is the first, we're doing the first live stream. It's going to be kind of rocky here. We don't have quite everything I want yet. Going to get some live streaming, some storm chasing live streaming. We're going to get some green screen stuff going. And so it should be pretty cool here. So if you know anyone chasers that would want to stream for us, go ahead and shoot me a message in the chat or email me or whatever. And we'll definitely start getting that going. And here's our radar now. You can see that hook. Look at that, those tall tops. So what we got there in the pink is some really heavy precip. And that's going to hit Laverne again. They're yet again under a tornado warning. Probably going to get some hail this time. But man, that area has been getting rocked in northwest Oklahoma. Luckily, that's to the northwest of Woodward. So Woodward probably has lucked out on that. Those storms down near Lubbock are still going to be pretty to the north of Lubbock. And then the storms up to the north here are just mostly hail producers, because our warm front is going to be somewhere in central Kansas. And north of that, your tornado potential is going to be a lot lower. Now, here's something interesting. You see how these storms go up as we get farther away? And what that is that's actually the radar beam. The radar beam goes up as you get farther away from the radar. It's shooting up into the atmosphere. So that can be kind of misleading. You can kind of think these things are like virga or elevated kind of precipits, and really it's not. So if we change the radar, you'll see how much this blows up. Because what it's doing is it's measuring way up high in the atmosphere because it's farther from the radar site. So we'll go to the Grand Island or the Hastings, Nebraska radar, and you can actually see this change. Now this 3D stuff can take a while to load. Here we are. See, that's a lot different than what it looked like farther away. So when you're looking at these radars, make sure to change to the proper site, the closest site, because it can be a lot misleading if you are too far away. So here's the storms out near in southeast Nebraska near Blue Rapids, Seneca. That's more like northwest Kansas, or northeast Kansas. We got some hail in there, probably in that pink area. Farther north towards Omaha, not too bad at the moment, but definitely some lightning and severe weather. So how's that lightning looking? Well, we'll scoot back out to radar scope real quick. Now, radar scope has some pretty cool lightning features, and got to the dual pane, single pane here. And these little, I don't know if you can see them on the live stream, these little dots right here are lightning strikes, cloud to ground lightning strikes. So not a ton with those ones in Texas. Surprised you wouldn't see more than that. But there is a lot in Nebraska. In fact, there was a storm just over me not too long ago, and this is what I was hearing. Just tons of lightning with these storms. They're weaker, but that doesn't always mean that you can't get clouded ground lightning with weaker thunderstorms. Lots of rain up in Nebraska. You're probably going to see some flash flood warnings up near Omaha, Sioux City. Now, this area just got caked with tons of snow this winter, tons of flooding. And so, most of that's resolved, but areas along the Missouri River could see some flooding tonight. It says tons of rain. We'll check out how about the storm total precipitation here? See how much has fallen with these. Yeah, quite a bit of rain. And we can actually go to the high-res one, the digital storm total, and plenty of rain. We got amounts. Look at that. Turn off the loop here. Yeah, about 1-2 inches or so, probably a little bit more than that. Storm total, see if this algorithm's any different here, about 2 inches. Probably a little bit more than that, and there's probably going to be more than that. It's probably going to be a good 2 to 3 inches in this swath here, especially up near Sioux City, where these storms are just ingesting tons of moisture. Now, let's go back down to Woodward, see if there's any... yeah, that's got a lot of precip with it as well. This thing near northwest of Woodward, near Laverne and Buffalo's got about an inch or two of precip, 3 inches down here near Pampa, northwest of Pampa. And so that's tracking right through Laverne and Buffalo. And there's still going to be more storms. I think you're going to see some more storms fire here later in the evening. Probably elevated, probably not a big tornado potential, but definitely something to watch. So how about that tornado potential now? Yeah, the tornado potential is definitely weakened. You can see there's not a whole lot of circulation here. There's a lot of inflow, but not a whole lot of outflow. And it's very broad. So you're probably just getting some strong winds out of the head of the storm here. That's blowing out of the storm near Protection, Kansas. But anytime you get this, anytime you get inflow stacked out against outflow with, the right environment, sometimes you'll get some circulations that temporarily develop. But the tornado threat, I would say, is near, it's a lot lower than it was earlier. But I definitely think this is going to continue probably for this area right out here for the next 1 to 2 hours. And then the capping will start to kind of diminish that threat. But overnight, you probably could see some tornado potential brief spin-ups out here in this region, right kind of in this area, just west of Wichita. Probably not going to make it to Wichita. I think there's going to be too much capping, and I think the storm's going to kind of lose itself just west of Wichita along that line. But right now, this area right here is going to see quite a bit of storms for a while now. And we got another tornado warning down here. Pretty strong inflow there. Wow, that's a real strong. I don't know if that's an artifact. Let's see. Got 70, 85 miles an hour northwest of May into this storm. Let's see if that's got a nice hook to it. Sometimes when you get these surges, you can get new circulations that develop. Now there's your old circulation. You might start to see something new here. Just northwest of May, there could be a new circulation developing around here. So that's something to watch. When you get these strong pulses of inflow that move into the storm, that can really up the updraft potential, and that can cause a pulse to go through the updraft. And what you'll see in response sometimes is some good outflow and a strengthening RFD behind the storm, and that will create some circulation. That's not really happening at the moment. Some more circulation out here, right around there. Some pretty strong inflow in there. And these storms definitely are not to screw around with yet. We're not out of the woods here. Got some pretty serious wind in them. Hail size hasn't been terrible. You see these contours. These are where your hails kind of fall. You have about 2-3 inches in there, and these oranges and reds, the yellows, only about an inch or two. So the hail hasn't been bad. Now this is radar derived, I believe, so that's not always accurate. I'd actually think maybe the hail's a little bit larger. These look like some pretty intense updrafts. Looks like something just really tightened up in there. Yeah, it looks like some protection Kansas. You can kind of see something tightened up in there. On this latest frame, we'll stop it right there, and you can kind of see that notch right there tightening up. So protection Kansas kind of under the gun. Coldwater Kansas probably under the gun as well. And so that is your tornado warning for that area right there. And here's your inflow. Like I said, remember that inflow, that 70, 80 knots I was talking about. I said that you'd probably see it tighten up, and I think that might start to happen here in that area. So we'll wait on this. I'm going to wrap it up within a few minutes here. Got to get up early tomorrow, so get a little tired. So we're going to wrap it up pretty soon, but I'm going to wait for a few minutes and see what this does near protection, because that's quite interesting down there. Those storms to the south near Lubbock, nothing terrible down there. It's mostly just hail. I guess hail's pretty bad, isn't it? All right. Yeah, that's Lubbock. Yeah, it's mostly just hail. But 3 inches, 3.5, pretty nasty near New Deal earlier, and shallow water, Petersburg, probably a lot of roofing projects for people that live down there. This area probably starting to get some hail. Lubbock just looked like it lucked out, except for maybe the east side, probably some damage on the east side of Lubbock. But these storms are mostly north. They kind of don't look the best organized. I think there's probably a lot of cold air coming in from that cold front, and I think the tornado threat's going to begin to lower out there. This is quite interesting right here, though. But we'll zoom back into that. Circulation just isn't all that strong with that storm, so I don't think that tornado threat's going to be all that high. Go back to DDC, Dodge City Radar. Now, looking kind of zoomed out here, these things are starting to go linear. I mean, if you at the beginning of the live stream, if you tuned in, these things were pretty isolated. So this is actually good news. They're starting to line out, and that can disrupt the updrafts and lower the tornado potential a little bit as the wind shear blows, up above, will blow the precip into the updraft. So there's an updraft here, but all of this stuff down here, that's what it's competing with. So that rain is going to kind of blow into the updraft. So that could lower the tornado potential quite significantly. But there still is a notch there. Radar frame hasn't updated, but we might see something interesting develop there near Protection, Kansas here soon. So we'll have to see what happens there. Turn on the hail, the digital vertically integrated liquid here. And hail threat's going to be the highest right in that area. Oh, there it goes, right there. Actually strengthened quite a bit. And we can see that's 1 inch hail. So pretty high on that. That's severe caliber. So 1 inch hail, it's close to a golf ball or so. And you can see that contour starting to develop. So Protection, Kansas, this line right here could see some hail and tornado potential for the next hour or so. We'll have to see if that materializes, though, as the storms to the south might actually kind of help out lower the tornado threat for those areas. Lots of hail in western Kansas today. You had reports 3 inches, 2 inches. Pretty crazy. Doesn't look like it went through any largely populated areas. Wow, look at that. 3.5 inches southwest of Logan. Hill City dodged a bullet. Now, where's Hayes, Kansas? There it is. Yeah, they dodged a bullet. But this area up in northwest Kansas, pretty intense. All right, so Omaha, Nebraska. Let's see if there's anything going on with hail up here. Hail threat is mostly low up here, but there is a severe watch. There's been some hail out here near Central City, just east of there. The hail threat is down here. That's moving northeast. So there could be some isolated pockets of pea, golf ball size hail at best, but I think the hail threat is a little bit lower up north. But there definitely could be some hail. So digital vertically integrated liquid. You can see there's little pockets of hail right here. This area typically, this area north of the warm front, going to be just hail, not tornado threat. And these little areas of color, that's where your highest hail threat's going to be, typically, not all the time. But this is kind of measuring the hail potential. And you can see these storms, maybe north of Wahoo, maybe some pea-size. Seward might be getting some good hail. And then the stuff to the southeast is going to be where your best hail is at, where the storm tops are a little bit higher and everything's a little bit more organized. Do one last look at Woodward, the Woodward area, just northwest of Woodward near Buffalo. And then we'll wrap it up here for tonight. Now, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do these live streams a little more frequently. I'm going to be busy the next few nights, even though there's going to be severe weather. But I think we'll do these a little more frequently. And we might just do forecasts. We'll have a state of the weather episode every night, just doing a quick 15, 30-minute forecast. So, yeah, there's your circulation right there. Pretty weak still. So that looks pretty good for them. 10 o'clock was when this was last updated, so I don't think we still have a frame yet updated. So any minute now it should update. So we'll go over to look at the rest of the night here on the browser and see what happens for the rest of the night. Lost it. There it is. Okay, so your warm front is this area. I'm not going to mess with that. It's a little crazy. So here's your warm front. We'll use weather.cod. And this is a website you can go to examine current conditions and also model data. We'll turn on the instability. We got our station's instability. There we go. Go back a frame. I think it's outdated. There we are. And here's your warm front right here. Now down here, it's more of a cold front. You got a colder surge of air down there, and then you got your dry line down here. So this is our setup we're looking at. We're looking at southeast winds blowing out of the Gulf. Here's your clouds, your infrared. This is where all our storms are blowing up. And if you look at the loop, look how much that's blown up over the past couple hours. And you see these storms down here trying to go, but they're just not. They're struggling with that cap in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And even if you do get a storm, I don't think they're going to be all that strong down there. Warm front's kind of out in this region. So north of that warm front, your hail threat's going to be higher, or it's a little bit high, but not that high. The tornado threat's going to be a lot lower. Your tornado threat's going to be the highest kind of in this region right here, but it's going to quickly weaken as the capping starts to develop and kind of expand inwards in on that area. So that should start to weaken overnight. Here's our current significant tornado parameter. This is a conditional probability of tornadoes, high in that area. I'd say don't worry about that area. It's a little bit too far north of the warm front. Significant tornado parameters at a 6 in southwest Kansas. You can see it's high out here. I just don't buy it. It's starting to cap in. You can see this hatched area. That's your capping starting to form. It's a mess up here. There's too much there's too much MCS, too much storm complexes up there. I don't think you're going to see much tornadoes. But nonetheless, through about maybe midnight, you could see an isolated brief tornado, probably weak in that area. Your highest threat right now is going to be in this complex down here in northwest Oklahoma. And I think the radar just updated, so we'll go back to that, see if it strengthened. And it looked like it just did. So yeah, there it is. See, there's that that RFD in response that I was talking about. You had that big surge updraft that happened a few minutes ago, 10, 15 minutes ago. That area is now weakened, but now you have a strong downdraft happening. You're starting to get some circulation there. So definitely still something to watch. There's probably a mesocyclone in this area just southeast Protection, and that's moving northeast, northwest of Coldwater at about 30 miles an hour. So that's really the only threat. Now there's actually another threat down here that is near Buffalo. That area got some inflow going in there. Probably a new base starting to form. But overall weak, doesn't look terrible. Let's go back up here. Your notch is going to be right in this area right here. So if you're a storm chaser, we just got another update. You probably want to be up in this area right here in the notch, maybe a little bit farther north. And this is where you'd be seeing your circulation, your mesocyclone, your tornado, just southeast of Protection. So pretty nasty right there. Now, type of 1 in the comments if you want me to live stream storm chasing, because I might be chasing in June. Right now I'm pretty tied up, but in June I might be going out storm chasing. We might do some live streams where I just film the storms as they're happening, and we'll stream it to the channel. So type of 1 if you're interested in that. And then also, if you know any chasers that want to put their live streams on this channel as we break this stuff down, shoot me a comment, a message, or just email me at weatherdecoded@gmail.com. That would be best. And we can set something up, because I think it'd be cool to have some like chasing live streams kind of overlaid with these live streams. So that would be kind of cool. So here's our radar again. This is going to be your notch right here. The highest tornado threat's going to be in there, but right now it doesn't look terrible. It looks mostly kind of broad. You got some outflow going out that way, a little bit of inflow, but it looks kind of outflow dominant at the moment. Got another update. Here's the notch right here. But what's kind of happening is all of these storms are kind of blowing into the updraft, so that's kind of making it kind of hard to develop a tornado in that area, and it's really starting to trend that way. You see all this stuff out here. It's kind of blowing into those updrafts. So I say the tornado threat's a lot weaker and a lot lower out there. And we got a new velocity update, a little bit tighter in here, but there is definitely a little bit more of a circulation. The wind is about 40 knots going in, 30 knots going out. Not terrible, probably just some windy conditions at the moment. But if you're going to want to watch an area, it's going to be right there, and that's probably moving right towards Coldwater. Looks like Protection just missed out on that. But overall, the tornado threat doesn't look terrible with that storm. Probably some good hail right there. You got to look at that right there. Probably decent size hail there, and about 1.75 inches. Check out the digital vertically integrated liquid. Yeah, it's going to be about 1.75, and that's a little bit larger than a golf ball in that region right there. Protection, Kansas, mostly wind speeds, again, 30, 40 miles an hour going in and out of this thing. And it looks like it's starting to become more outflow dominant, which will lower the tornado potential throughout the evening. And then the storms to the south it looks like we just lost the velocity couplet on the storms to the south. I'm not even seeing it at all. But if you were to get something, maybe it happens somewhere out in this area near Buffalo. It's probably too late. It's probably going to be to the northeast of Buffalo, so that's probably good news. You might see some storms kind of feed into this and then reorganize, but probably going to be the east of Buffalo. So the tornado threat's really starting to lower, it looks like. And now you can see what I was talking about, all that storms to the south kind of venting into that updraft. And it's really just starting to become outflow dominant. So tornado threat a lot lower. You can see it's linear kind of now in there. It's mostly just winds going out like that. And so the tornado threat's a lot lower for this area now. So I think we'll probably wrap it up here soon and look at those storms real quick one more time in Lubbock. Mostly just hail threats. But yeah, the hail threat is pretty darn high for these storms down here. So if you're in northwest Texas, maybe northwest Texas, just south of the Panhandle. Look out, these got some pretty good size hail. Storm near Turkey, Abernathy. Abernathy's probably going to get smacked with hail soon. 1.25 inches out here. And you look at that Stormville, digital vertically integrated liquid. Pretty hard to say. Pretty strong out there just west of Abernathy. So they might get some pretty serious hail here soon. And then the Northeast actually got a new tornado warning just west of Philadelphia. Check that out. The tornado threat's probably going to be weaker out here. That thing's got some a little bit of hail, probably 1 inch if I were to guess. Turn the hail here on, and we got about 0.5 inches, so nothing terrible, but this is getting into a populated area. So we'll have to check out the storm here. Now, the velocity couplet is kind of in this area right here, but it doesn't look all that strong, so I think it's more of a safety type of, it's probably a Doppler indicated tornado warning, although right there it looked kind of interesting. There's probably a brief spin up north of Honeybrook. Now these storms out here, they aren't as, the dynamics aren't as good, but you definitely could get some brief spin ups. And it's most likely with this storm right here, the leading storm, maybe this one as well out here. And as that moves south of Philly, we could see some brief spin ups. So pretty scary out there for this area as it's heavily populated. But again, I think the tornadoes are going to be a little bit smaller and a little more brief. So I think we'll wrap it up for that. Again, if you know anyone that wants to submit stuff for the live stream, just let me know. We're looking for chasers, some live streaming footage. We're going to put that on the channel here. And we're also going to do some green screen stuff like that. And again, tonight was just a test, just kind of trying to figure this all out. And I think we'll start doing this more for severe weather outbreaks, maybe earlier in the day as it's evolving. So let me know. And then also subscribe. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. We'll check the chat real quick. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and fire them away right now. I'm going to go look at the chat. We'll see what people are saying here. All right. Hey, how's everyone doing here? So we got hurricane coverage. Yeah, we'll probably do some of that. There's Xander. Yeah, Amarillo's out in the Panhandle, Geezerman, definitely. Yeah, awesome. So I think we'll wrap it up there, and again, we'll add some more features as we get some more severe weather setups here. There's gonna be a lot of days here upcoming over the next couple of weeks. So thanks for everyone for tuning in, and have a good day.